This pre-construction condo in Midtown Toronto is about to close, but its pre-construction buyers are having a hard time closing. And this is why the Globe and Mail highlighted recently that this pre-construction buyer in this article is walking away from a $439,000 deposit and is risk being sued by the builder. But let's address the elephant in the room here for this article first. This buyer did buy a $2.2 million luxury condo at the height of the market in 2021. Of course, this buyer will lose money now as the pre-construction condo market is severely down from what it was 2 to 3 years ago. His appraisal for the condo he bought came in at $1.6 million. This means that his pre-construction purchase years ago is down $600,000. But I want to point out that this is obviously an extreme case, and not everybody is buying luxury condos, let alone being able to afford an entry-level condo in Toronto. But here's the thing. This buyer did not need to walk away from his pre-construction purchase. He chose to strategically walk away when Canada's biggest bank, RBC, who was offering this buyer at this condo a blanket appraisal for the entire project. This meant that he could close. This is a little known fact about the pre-construction market that I wanted to highlight in this episode, because developers are struggling to get a lot of their buyers from years ago to close on the units that they bought. And many of them actually have partnered with Blanks to offer these blanket appraisals so that the buyers who bought in these projects can close on their units a lot easier. These blanket appraisals are providing condo mortgages that are effectively 110% of the market value. So be sure to keep watching in this episode as I dive deeper into why the buyer in this article is choosing to walk away from his deposit. I'm also going to walk you through how blanket appraisals are working to effectively backstop a lot of the pre-construction market and prevent a lot of the buyers from defaulting on their units right now. So stay tuned. Hi, my name is Zen, and if you enjoy my data-driven and number-crunching real estate updates, be sure to like and subscribe. A buyer losing his deposit and risking litigation on a pre-construction condo that they purchased years ago isn't new. It's going to likely continue happening in 2025 and into 2026 as the market value of these pre-construction condos hasn't caught up to the price of what the buyers bought these pre-construction condos for, which I would say when they bought it were already like 20-30% above the peak pricing. I'm going to show you the math of what happened to this buyer in the article and why, if you were caught in a similar situation, you should be going to RBC to get a blanket appraisal to lock in your appraisal value immediately if you have a pre-construction condo closing in, call it the next 2 years. Do not risk an under appraisal. It's really bad. If you need a contact, email me, email's right here. But first, I do want to address my biggest concern for the future of the pre-construction condo. And I've said this countless times before. I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse in the last year or so. It's actually 3 things. Number 1 is the fact that the banks are now publicly talking about bailing out condo projects by giving bad mortgages via a blanket appraisal to all the buyers on that project to effectively ease the financial burden when closing an underwater condo. That's just a little bit nuts to me. It was something like I heard and saw of on the realtor side when speaking to other people and developers, but to openly speak about this in the news is a whole new thing. The second thing is the fact that these bad loans are on the bank's books and could potentially get into and be part of CMHC or the Bank of Canada's balance sheet in the future, which effectively means that us as the taxpayers are bailing out the bad decisions made by these pre-construction speculators. And thirdly, but not last, the scariest thing of them all is what if at some point in the next 2 years when a lot of these closings are happening, there isn't enough closings to form a condominium corporation with a project, and this builder still owns a majority of these units at the turnover meeting. That could be chaos for both the builder and the owners who already closed, which ultimately I think will send a really scary rippling effect into the entire condo market, inclusive of the resale, and why buyers will be afraid of buying condos in the future. Hopefully that doesn't happen given some of the creative tactics I've seen builders use to get buyers to close units as of late. So I have fingers crossed for that. It doesn't actually come to fruition. Hey, it's me interrupting myself. Ready to make a move? Just one free call, no hassle, put decades of experience to work for you. So here's the math with a lot of these pre-construction condos that are closing in 2025 and 2026. So this is roughly how the numbers would work. Now, this would apply to most condos that were bought in late 2021 and 2022, but the numbers may not be the same, but the percentages could be very similar. So in this example, he bought the condo at $2.2 million, and traditionally you'll have 20% of your deposit by occupancy. So this is where this comes from. So traditionally, this is how the structure of the property would break out on closing. However, when he got an appraisal, the bank, not RBC, valued it at $1.6 million, which would mean that it's only worth 63% of what he purchased it for outside of the deposit. And that means that they are 37% underwater because that's how much value has dropped down in the current resale market relative to what they bought it for on the pre-construction side. So this 37% is how much negative equity or underwater that they would have. So what they are effectively doing is if they choose to close on this property, their underwater component is made up of the 20%, which is the deposit, plus the money that they would immediately realize because the property is only worth 1.6. So by closing on your contract of $2.2 million, you lose the 20% in equity, plus you also lose an additional $156,000 because the condo is only worth $1.6 million. And that's what I'm talking about. A lot of people are strategically walking away and risking litigation by the builders. The kind of kicking the can down the road kind of strategy that is offered by RBC is what we call the blanket appraisal. So effectively, they're saying, hey, your condo that you bought was $2.2 million. I am going to value this condo at $2.2 million and use your 20% deposit and give you a mortgage of $1.756 million that you were supposed to get anyways, even though the market value is in this box over here. So effectively, the blanket appraisal is covering for this gap over here of the instant loss and utilizing the deposit to fund the mortgage. The problem with all of that is when you do the math is because the condo is worth $1.6 million over here, you can see that the mortgage is larger than the value of the condo. So therefore, the mortgage is 110% of the value of the condo. So in the technical term, we call this loan to value. So traditionally, when you go buy a condo, usually you have 20% down. That means you have 80% loan to value. And this is usually why you have 20% down. You get the 80% over here, which is over here, right? However, in this blanket appraisal part, they're giving you 110% of the value of the condo. And this is where RBC and other banks who are doing blanket appraisals are issuing risky loans. So as you can see, RBC is effectively giving a mortgage far greater than the value of the condo. 110% of the value of the condo, to be exact. This means that if the borrower defaults on their mortgage, even if the bank power sales the condo, there won't be enough funds to pay off the mortgage, which will be a loss for the bank. And that's the problem with these risky loans. This is effectively just another Canadian tactic to kick the can down the road some more for the real estate market. And I will note that some people in the industry are saying that the lenders that are financing these projects are also the ones giving out these blanket appraisals. It is not true in this case for this project from the Globe and Mail article when I pulled the mortgage that was on title. As a final note, remember, this article is talking about one isolated incident. While the numbers are large and eyeball grabbing, and I think that's the point, the percentages are similar for most of the record-breaking condo completions scheduled for this year and next year in 2026 because they were bought close to the peak pricing. This is why I talked about my three main concerns earlier for the pre-construction market. And for anyone who is holding on to hope that the condo market will be later in spring of 2025 this year, call it, or in 2026, I'm sorry, I got bad news for you. The amount of unsold inventory currently is at 2008 great financial crisis levels. And 63% of that unsold inventory is in the condo space. And this is exactly what I talk about in this video here. You'll need to see this glut of condo in the resale inventory get absorbed first before seeing any condo price appreciation. So make sure you check that video out. I'll see you in the next episode. And remember, your move, your future. See ya!